Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's video where I'm going to be using my Maggie Holmes Market Square again to scrap a photo of my children from back in 2008 when it was just before their second birthday. So first of all, I wanted to add some texture to the background, and I'm using this heart stencil. I think it's a Vicky Boutin one with some Tim Holtz texture paste. Couldn't think what it was called then. Just smearing it through the stencil right down the centre of the layout. It's a little bit difficult when you're using a 6x8 stencil to get it lined up and not smear the hearts where the mat, you can see there, I just dropped the stencil down onto where I've just added the hearts above it, if that makes sense. So I'm just trying not to push that down too much, and you'll see I'll come in with my palette knife and just scrape off the bits that I'm not happy with, where it's smeared a little bit too much. But mostly this will be covered by the photo, so I'm not too concerned. But just flattening things down there. And then I can leave it to one side to dry. So now it's dry, I'm going to come in with my shimmers paints. This first one that I'm watering down is an Inklings in Coral Reef, so I'll just leave that to one side to activate. You just need to leave the water about a minute to soften that paint that's in the pot, because it's rock hard if you don't. So the second one I'm coming in with is Here I Am, which is a beautiful peach colour, and just smearing that around the middle of the page, adding plenty of water so that I can get it to move about easily. And you have to be a little bit careful. You can see I'm using stippling motions, because if you try and swipe the brush over the texture paste, it flicks the paint everywhere, as I've learnt. So you just need to be a little bit careful. And then this bottom one that I'm using is a new one to me called So Sappy, and it's more of a browny peach. Not too dark, but really beautiful with this collection. And I just wanted something that was a little bit darker and not an orange. So just smearing that around the bottom, bringing it up a little bit to mix in with that peach. And then I shall come in at the top with the Coral Reef. Just adding a few splatters as I go. And you can see I'm using my right hand to shield my pattern papers, which are sitting there to the right hand side. So just pouring the Inklings Coral Reef onto the top there where the water's activated with the paint, and spreading that around. Just adding a tiny bit more colour and bringing it around the side of Here I Am, because I want all these colours to blend together. Going back in with Here I Am for some splatters. And then I decided that I wanted to bring in something a little bit darker. So I've got one of the new to the shop Vibes paints. This is a spray paint, and I'm just adding some spots of that to the whole of the painted area and also around the edge as well. Just adding a bit of speckling. And then I'll smear that out with my paintbrush. And again, this is just bringing another colour to add dimension to this, so it's not just 3 blocks of colour. I want them all to merge nicely. And I wanted to add a darker section to this bottom left-hand side. And then I'll add some to the top left-hand side as well. So just smearing a bit in from the bottle and then watering it down, spreading it out. So that's done, and I'll leave that to dry before continuing. So this strip of paper is one that I've kept from a previous layout. If you've watched any of my videos in the past, you'll know I do not like to throw anything away. And this strip is a prime example. It's going to be the focal point down the centre of the page. So just using my T-square ruler to make sure I can find the centre there, and put it roughly at the 6-inch mark, and then checking that it is straight down the page. And once that's down, I'm going to come in with some 49 and mark it stitched washi tape, and I shall use that to help adhere this down and add some black to the layout. I didn't want it to be all muted colours. I do like adding a bit of black for that pop of colour, even though it's not a colour. So there's my photo. I trimmed down, it was actually a 7x5 photo, which I trimmed right down. There was lots of baby paraphernalia in the background, all their swings and things, and I just wanted the focal point to be the kids. So I matted it onto some white cardstock to add that little border, and now I'm coming in with some tissue paper just to add a subtle border around that before matting on some of the papers. And this time for this one, I've pulled out the papers from the 49er market that are the pinks and orangey tan colours. I don't really know how else to describe that. I also pulled out some embellishments, you can see to the left-hand side, from my old stash. And I was trying to bring in some of the green, because James has got his green Northern Ireland kit on. But it just didn't work. There is green in this collection, and green would work nicely with these colours, with these, yes, the colours that I've chosen. And there's a bit of green in that strip that I've stuck down the middle of the page, in the leaves on the roses, but it just didn't work. So you'll see, I don't actually end up using any of those really. I do bring in a tiny bit of green on a flare badge, but that's about it. So just distressing the edges of these pattern papers that I'm adding to the mat behind the photo. I'm just adding them one at a time. And as I say, it's all these sort of lilac-y, peachy pinks with that orangey peach colour or golden colour. And they work really beautifully with baby photos. They're similar to the colours that we saw in the Boho Baby collection from Simple Stories last year. If you noticed that collection last year, I really loved the colours in that. And I think that's probably what prompted me to pull these ones out when I was doing a picture of my babies. So just carrying on distressing with that Tim Holtz edge distresser as I go, using my nail where I've missed bits, and then gluing it down with my wet glue. So almost there with these layers, just a couple more bits to go. I wanted to bring in this pink and gold, and I wanted to make sure the pink showed at the top, so that's why I turned it round there. Because if I'd used it the other way up, I don't think the pink dots would have shown, because I'm only showing a little bit of that paper. So again, just gluing that down. And then for balance, I want to add another piece, and I use the same colour with the daisies on there. And that just pokes out from the bottom left-hand side. And I only need a tiny strip of that because it's not showing anywhere else. So just cut the very edge of that off and use that. So stop being lazy, Sarah, and reach for that, that edge distresser, which is right on your desk. I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm always just, oh, I'll just use my nail. And then because I wasn't concentrating, I put the glue on the wrong side of the paper there, so just wiped it off and carried on, pretend that it didn't really happen. So just adding that to the photo mat. And now that can go down onto the page. So I'm reaching for my 25mm Sticks 2 foam pads. These are fantastic for adhering your pictures to the layout. It gives them some height, so it makes them the focal point. And the adhesion on these is absolutely fantastic. No problem with them going onto mixed media at all. So just pulling off the backing, and I'll get that down, and then I can start embellishing. So you can see that I'm using the T-ruler to make sure that that's square on. You can see that the inking that I did at the beginning is slightly over to the right-hand side because that strip down the middle is at the middle. But I get it to balance out by adding the bits and pieces as I go. So this little title that says You and Me, I thought was really nice because obviously it's James and Amelia and they're twins. So I just cut that out. That was from one of the pattern papers. And then I saw another one that says So Sweet. So I thought that would work really nicely with it. So they'll both be mounted onto foam pads so that they can be overlapped onto the bottom left-hand corner of that photo. And this is what I mean about helping to balance out the fact that the photo is slightly to the right and the mixed media is slightly to the right of the centre. By adding more to the left, it balances everything out. So I'm happy with those two. So we'll come in a minute with the foam pads. Now this is what I was talking about. This is an old Jelly Bean Soup sticker sheet, and I pulled it out for the greens, but I'm determined to use something from it. So I reached for that grey and cream chevron and just use that as a grounding piece underneath these two banners. And a lot of it gets covered, but it does work really nicely under these. So here I am fiddling with the foam pads. These are again Sticks 2 foam pads, but they're the I think they're 6mm by 12mm, and they work nicely when you need a long strip of foam. So just sticking that bottom one down first, and then I'll add the other one on top just slightly overlapping. So there we go, it's much easier to pull that backing off that time. And you just cut off where you need it, and that's it. Again, these come on a massive roll, and I've just torn them into strips and popped them in a box. Just making sure that those corners are stuck down and there's not too much foam. I think I put a bit too much foam on that. So now coming in with a flare badge that just says love this. This is one from the documented set, I think it is, at Hey Little Magpie. They're fabulous flare badges, just white typed sentiments. So popping that underneath. And now adding some of the mini chevrons, again from Hey Little Magpie from JD3D Print. And just 3 of those nestled into that side. Just add a little bit of dimension and a bit of something to it. I really like them. I love the colour as they are because they work so nicely with this colour palette, but you could paint them any colour that you like. Next I'm coming in with some of the wood arrows from JD3D Print. Just one, I think. And then this is from Sweet Rush from Vicky Bootin, from the sticker book from her collection. Just a little label that works nicely there. It's a craft colour with a rose gold foiling on it. And then this is just a little printables camera and a hot air balloon flare from Hey Little Magpie for one of the baby collections. I'm trying to embrace things that aren't related to the photo. When I saw these hot air balloons in the collection, I really struggled with them and thought I wasn't going to use them, or I would have used them on a photo from being outside or something. But in actual fact, I do think they look really nice on this layout, and I'm trying to push myself to do that more, use things that aren't necessarily related to the actual photo itself. So just scattering some little sequins around now, again, just to add a little bit of interest around the page. And then coming in with this Heidi Swap Sun Chaser foam padded heart. I'm just putting one up there and then one goes next to the So Sweet banner. Some little JD3D Print stars in white. One on each side. I'm just gluing those down. And then I think I just add the date and some journaling. So yes, here I am with the journaling, just drawing some guidelines, and then I write it with my black gel pen, and I say, gosh, how this photo sums you both up. Amelia always smiling and James always with something to say, chalk and cheese, because they really were. Their personalities are so very different. And then adding the date there, and that's it. So thank you very much for joining me. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this process and how this layout came together. I would love it if you give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy watching my videos. I upload every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. And other than that, I shall see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.